Most people think wealth in farming comes from massive land, expensive machinery, or thousands of animals. They're wrong. Right now, in backyards, small plots of land, and simple sheds across the world, ordinary people are building surprisingly successful farming businesses with an animal most people barely think about. Not cattle. Not goats. Not chickens. Rabbits. And the reason rabbit farmers are quietly succeeding has almost nothing to do with what most beginners think. Because while everyone else is chasing businesses that require huge startup capital, rabbit farmers are taking advantage of one of the most efficient livestock systems ever created. Small space. Low overhead. Rapid reproduction. Multiple income streams. And a market that continues to grow year after year. But here's the part that surprises almost everyone. Most people who fail in rabbit farming don't fail because rabbits aren't profitable. They fail because they misunderstand the numbers. And before this video ends, you're going to understand why rabbit farming has become one of the most overlooked opportunities in modern agriculture. Subscribe if you're interested in profitable farming ideas, livestock businesses, and practical agricultural systems. Now let's begin. Imagine two people. The first person decides to start raising cattle. The second person decides to start raising rabbits. The cattle farmer spends a significant amount of money securing land, fencing, equipment, feed, and veterinary care. The rabbit farmer starts with a fraction of that investment. A few cages. A small breeding group. Basic equipment. Simple housing. At first glance, the cattle farmer appears to be building the bigger business. The operation looks impressive. The animals are larger. The land requirement is greater. Everything feels more serious. But then something interesting begins to happen. While the cattle farmer waits months or years to grow the herd significantly, the rabbit population begins multiplying. And this is where the economics become fascinating. A healthy female rabbit can produce multiple litters in a year. Each litter may contain several kits. Those kits grow quickly. Some become breeding stock. Some are sold. Some are raised for meat production. And over time, what started as a handful of animals can become a substantial operation. This is what many beginners fail to understand. Rabbit farming is not about the value of a single rabbit. It's about the power of multiplication. Successful farmers don't think in terms of individual animals. They think in terms of systems. And systems change everything. Now let's talk about one of the biggest barriers in agriculture. Land. Land is expensive. Land is limited. And for many people, land is the reason they never start farming. Rabbit farming removes much of that barrier. Unlike many livestock enterprises that require large grazing areas, rabbits can be raised efficiently in relatively compact spaces. That's one reason so many successful rabbit farmers started with very little. A backyard. A spare corner of a property. A small shed. A modest structure. They didn't wait for the perfect farm. They started with the resources they already had. Then they expanded gradually as their knowledge and income increased. And that lesson applies far beyond agriculture. Many successful businesses begin small. Not because people lack ambition, but because starting small allows mistakes to remain affordable. Now let's discuss something that determines whether a livestock operation succeeds or fails. Feed. Every livestock business has expenses. And feed is often one of the largest. If feed costs get out of control, profits disappear. The best rabbit farmers understand this. They pay attention to efficiency. They study feeding programs. They reduce waste. They monitor growth rates. They understand that every small improvement in efficiency can create a meaningful difference over time. Because farming is often a game of margins. A small saving repeated hundreds or thousands of times can become a major advantage. And that's exactly how many successful farmers think. Not emotionally, not impulsively, but strategically. Now let's talk about what makes rabbit farming different from many other agricultural businesses. Multiple income streams. Most beginners assume rabbit farmers only make money selling rabbits. That's not true. In many cases, successful operations generate income from several different sources. Some sell rabbits for meat production. Others sell breeding stock to farmers. Some sell young rabbits to beginners entering the industry. Some participate in specialty markets. Others sell manure for gardening and crop production. And this is where things become interesting. Because every additional income stream creates more resilience. If one market slows down, another may continue performing well. That's a principle that applies to nearly every successful business. Diversification creates stability. And stability allows growth. Now let's address one of the biggest myths in agriculture. The myth that there is no market. You've probably heard people say it before. Who buys rabbits? But that's the wrong question. The better question is, where is the demand? Because every successful farmer understands something important. Production comes after market research, not before. The smartest farmers identify potential customers first. Then they build production around actual demand. Restaurants, specialty buyers, homesteaders, breeders, pet owners, local communities. Different regions have different opportunities. And that's why market research matters so much. The most successful rabbit farmers aren't simply producing animals. They're solving customer problems. And businesses that solve problems tend to survive. Now let's look at a simple example. Imagine someone starts with a small breeding setup. Nothing fancy. Nothing impressive. Just a few healthy animals and a willingness to learn. During the first year, they focus on understanding the basics. Housing, breeding, feeding, record keeping, customer relationships. They don't rush. They don't try to become the biggest farm overnight. Instead, they build systems. Then something happens. The systems begin working. Production becomes predictable. Losses decrease. Customer confidence increases. And every improvement creates another opportunity. That's how growth usually happens. Not suddenly. Gradually. One improvement at a time. Unfortunately, many beginners never reach that stage because they make three major mistakes. The first mistake is expanding too quickly. They see early success and immediately buy more cages, more animals, and more equipment. But growth without management creates problems. The second mistake is poor record keeping. Successful farmers track breeding dates, production numbers, health information, expenses, and sales. Without records, decision-making becomes guesswork. And guesswork is expensive. The third mistake is producing before finding buyers. This is one of the most common business errors. Many people focus entirely on production. Then they discover they have no customers. The best farmers reverse that process. They build relationships first. Then they expand production. And that's why their businesses tend to be stronger. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. The global demand for food continues to increase. Consumers continue looking for different protein options. Agricultural systems continue evolving. And opportunities continue emerging for people willing to learn. Does that mean rabbit farming is a guaranteed path to wealth? Of course not. No business is guaranteed. Every business involves risk. Every business requires effort. Every business requires learning. But rabbit farming offers something many industries do not. A relatively accessible entry point. A scalable model. And the ability to start small. That's why it continues attracting entrepreneurs, homesteaders, and small-scale farmers. Not because it's easy, but because it is possible. And possibility matters. Because every successful farm started as an idea. Every thriving agricultural business started with a decision. Someone chose to begin. Someone chose to learn. Someone chose to stay consistent. And consistency is often the hidden ingredient behind every success story. The public sees the result. They don't see the years of learning, the improvements, the mistakes, the adjustments, the persistence. But those things are what create success. Not luck, not shortcuts, not magic. Systems, discipline, patience, and steady progress. That's why some rabbit farmers build remarkably successful businesses. Not because rabbits are extraordinary, but because they created systems that work. Small systems, efficient systems, scalable systems. And while many people spend years waiting for the perfect opportunity, they simply start where they are and improve over time. So here's the question. If you had the space to start a small livestock business tomorrow, would you choose rabbits, chickens, goats, fish, or something else? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more profitable farming ideas, livestock business opportunities, and practical agricultural insights. Because sometimes the biggest opportunities are hiding in places most people never think to look.